Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to another action-packed instalment of Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all doing well. And this is it, the penultimate weekend before the London Marathon. It is next weekend, as at the time of recording, the 27th of April. We'll be heading down on the Friday and basically making a long weekend of it. Of course, relaxing and not doing the usual kind of drinking and partying stuff that we would usually be doing in London. But yeah, I think we're about ready. The training has been somewhat sporadic. Catherine has suffered a very minor ankle injury, but she's okay. She's been seen by the physio and taped up and has the go-ahead to get on with the marathon. Of course, the goal was only ever to survive, so of course we'll be running it together. And not looking for a world record time or anything like that. Just hoping to complete the 26 miles in the beautiful city of London. And one of those kind of midlife crisis life goal things. But the big news to do with that is that the fundraising, I've raised 100% of my target. So £2,503 at the moment of the £2,500 that I need to raise for that fantastic charity for breast cancer now. To actually be allowed to run the marathon. So thank you ever so much to all of you who have donated. I know quite a lot of my regulars have. I know I've been banging on about it. Then probably, I don't know if there'll be a ramble next week. Come to think of it, obviously with us going down on the Friday, I'll see if I can come out with something, because I know there are a lot of you who make this kind of a big part of your weekly routine. But anyway, that is that. And I guess I promised you some vintage and retro computing and gaming news, didn't I? So I'm going to dive straight in with the first story here. A few people have submitted this over on my Discord server. And of course, this is also one that's come up on my radar quite a bit, just generally browsing the internet and stuff. So thank you to Technic, Zoinks, and Chris, the three people who submitted this, and I'm sure a few other people have probably mentioned it as well. But of course, this was going to come up on my radar. This is Doom. This is, I think it's fair to say, my favourite game of all time. I've got my Doom shrine right here, a regular part of my studio setup here. So I've got like the original mail order boxed version of Doom in there, my original shareware copy from back in the day, lots of paraphernalia and things, all the limited edition pewter statues and plush toys and things that they've come out with over the years. So I think this is going to cost me a bit of money. Let's look at this. So there is a new physical re-release of Doom 1 and 2, which is coming out via Limited Run Games. Now, this has been previously released on various platforms, on Steam, the Switch, and obviously the Xbox and the PlayStation. I do own it on the PC. Of course, I think, did we automatically get it? I think if you owned the original Doom 1 and or 2 on Steam at least, then you actually got this remastered version for free automatically, I seem to remember. In fact, I was actually playing this just last night because John Romero's new, or latest, I guess, expansion or episode for Doom, Sigil 2, has very recently been added as a download for this, as a free download for this. So if you own the Doom 1 and 2 remaster, you will automatically get Sigil 2. And I thought I'd give that a go. I do own the boxed copy of Sigil 2, and indeed the original Sigil. I was very lucky to be able to get on board with the super big version of that, with the T-shirt and all the other collectibles and stuff in there. But just missed out on Sigil 2. I had to get the standard big box copy. I know, but whatever, it's fine. But that's not the news. I guess that's one bit of news. But no, the news is that there's this physical release that's coming out. It's in pre-production. It is a pre-order. And as at the time of recording, we're actually 2 hours or 2.5 hours away from being able to order this. And there's a reason I say that this may end up costing me a lot of money. So we've got the standard edition. This is just a boxed, nicely boxed physical copy of the Doom 1 and 2 remaster kind of re-release. So, if we go through, this includes Doom, Doom 2, TNT Evolution, the Plutonio Experiment, the master levels for Doom 2, No Rest for the Living, which was the new, I believe that was made by Machine Games, or I think they were involved with that. I don't know. I think some of the original id Software people were involved with that as well as some of the people from Night Dive, I seem to remember. And speaking of Night Dive, of course, they're the ones that did the remaster, and this is all running on their fantastic Kex engine, as per their other recent remasters. We've got Sigil and Sigil 2 included. You can get those for free anyway, but nice to have them officially included as part of this. And indeed, those episodes were made by John Romero, one of the co-creators of Doom, in the past couple of years. And Sigil, the original, certainly is fantastic. I haven't completed Sigil 2 yet, but it's looking very, very promising, as you might expect. Legacy of Rust. Sorry, Legacy of Rust was the new chapter that was made by Night Dive and Machine Games. Sorry, I am mistaken. And there's a new deathmatch map pack with 25 maps. So yeah, 187 mission maps and 43 deathmatch maps in Doom and Doom 2. Quite a lot of stuff to sink your teeth into. And yeah, who knows? I mean, obviously Sigil 2 was added recently, and there is like an online mod thing where you can play other episodes and things as well. So quite a lot of Doom content there. Kind of the definitive release of the original 2 games. We've got online cross-platform deathmatch and co-op for up to 16 players. There's the mod browser, like I just mentioned. You've got the original MIDI Doom and Doom 2 soundtracks, or the modern versions by Andrew Hulshult. And these are absolutely fantastic. I have to say, the new soundtrack, I'm very much a purist when it comes to Doom. You know, I enjoyed it on our Sound Blaster 16 clone back in the day. I just don't remember what they're called. What was it called? The ESS audio drive. That's what we had in our PC back in the day. Big fan of that card. And of course, I have enjoyed that on the Roland Sound Canvas and stuff as well. But I'm kind of a bit of a purist. But I must say, this new soundtrack by Andrew Hulshult, it slaps, as the kids say. It is. If you like your metal music and stuff like that, it is absolutely spot on and very much in the spirit of the original game. So I do approve. And yeah, that was something that had been kind of previously released, and he was asked back to do a whole new soundtrack for Doom 2 as well, which is fantastic. Also, of course, Andrew Hulshult, I believe he did the soundtracks. He did the soundtracks for quite a few games, didn't he? But I think Dusk, perhaps most famously. Did he do Dusk? I did very much enjoy Dusk. If you haven't played Dusk and you like your first-person shooters, definitely check that out. But anyway, yeah, it's now running on the Kex engine. We've got Boom source compatibility, which makes it possible for hundreds of community-created mods to be published in-game, which is amazing. We've got accessibility options and stuff like that. We've got new language options. We've got upgraded visuals, modern controller support, faster weapon switching with the weapon carousel, gyroscopic aiming if your controller supports that, improved mouse and keyboard controls, split screen deathmatch and co-op for up to 4 players, split screen, local split screen. Up to 60 FPS, native 16:9 support, up to 1080p. That seems a bit out of date, actually, because I was playing this on my 1440p monitor last night at like 140 FPS. So I think that's actually since been updated. Original in-game music using original hardware, and you've got quick saves, quick loads, and dehacked mod support. So it's a fantastic re-release anyway. And that's the standard edition. So let's go up to the big box edition, and I'm saving the headline story for last here. So we've got the big box edition. This is $99. Did I mention the price of the previous one? It's $30, $29.99. The big box edition is $99.99. And yeah, it's what does the big box edition add? Well, we have a big box, which comes with some bits and bobs as well. So we've got the a 2-piece big box, so we've got the outer and the inner box as well. We've got the soundtrack on cassette tape with proper slip cases, which is cool. And we've got the that includes the standard bass Doom soundtrack and the new soundtrack as well, which I was just raving about. And a trading card pack, which includes 5 random Doom-themed trading cards. And just in this little image that we have here, is there a bigger version of this if we open this in a new tab? Yes, there is. Very, very good. So, yeah, these trading cards we've got here. We've got the Mancubus, we've got the Hell Knight, we've got Pinky, the Imp, and, of course, the Cacodemon. I don't really know the best way to pronounce that. Anyway. And, yeah, all of the other stuff, as previously mentioned, in the standard edition. So that's quite cool if you are a collector of big box games. However, there's the Will It Run edition. Why the name? Why Will It Run edition? Well, let's find out. So the first thing you need to notice about this is that it's $666.66. So yeah, it's nearly $700. What on earth do you get for $700 when it comes to a game from 1993 like Doom? I mean, how much could they possibly add to make it worth that much money? Well, this is quite something. So, the Will It Run edition includes a box that plays Doom. So we've got all the stuff previously mentioned. We've got the two-piece big box. We've got the cassette tape soundtrack with the slipcases. We've got a floating cacodemon on a magnetic base. So this is, it says 3-foot cacodemon with 5-foot base. I guess they've probably got the symbols wrong there, and it's actually 3 inches because, I mean, I suppose for $700, it might be 3 foot tall. Probably not. There's a handheld cacodemon that plays Doom. There's a trading card pack with the 5 random cards. There's a certificate of authenticity. And the box itself also plays Doom. I mean, come on. Let's have a look at this picture here. So, yeah, the box has a built-in screen and it's got buttons on it. And you can play Doom itself on the box that this comes in. And we've also got the handheld cacodemon here, which also plays Doom, so you can play Doom on the move. It's got like this anime blush kawaii thing going on as well. Why not? It's Doom. It's fun. Why not have a bit of fun with it? So, yeah, we've got all the stuff that we had in the two editions, and we've got the box that plays Doom, and it includes a Steam code as well. So yeah, if you buy the PC version of this and you don't want to open the box, but you do still want to play the remastered release of Doom and Doom 2, you can use the Steam code and you can leave it on the shelf and hope that it gains some value over the years as an investment, if that's your bag. Not really my bag, I must admit. I do tend to buy this stuff to play with, but yeah, a box that plays Doom. Will it run Edition? Will it run Doom? Yes, it will, on the box itself. For $600, $666.66. What will they think of next? Some quite unfortunate and rather sad news this week from my local computer museum. This is the Retro Computer Museum, or RCM, in Leicester. And if you'll remember, I actually visited this place back in June 2022, way back in 2022, when they were in their old building. They have since moved into a bigger building on the same kind of industrial park in Leicester. And I interviewed Andy, the actual founder of the museum. A really, really lovely chap, and we've been very friendly ever since. I have since been back and checked out their new location, and the museum is going from strength to strength, thanks to the work of Andy and, of course, all of the other volunteers involved in that. So kind of disappointing and sad, really, to see that they've had another big setback this week. So, yeah, this comes off the back of some other bad news that happened way back in January when the museum was actually flooded. So this was their new site that they'd only very recently moved into. And yeah, the river that runs kind of by the museum burst its banks for the very first time ever, I believe, back in January. And of course, the new museum is on 2 levels, but they do have some very valuable stuff on the ground floor. So they have their arcade and some quite other kind of very important historical stuff. And it all got flooded, and quite a lot of stuff unfortunately got damaged. But the volunteers did rally round, and they did come together, and they cleaned everything up and got the museum back up and running, which was absolutely fantastic to see. Yeah, but unfortunately, another setback. They have been they've been burgled this week. Yeah. So, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like any of the kind of rare and valuable hardware was taken. It looks like the burglars were just opportunists who were just after cash. So they broke into the till, and they also took the donation boxes and things. So, fortunately, thankfully, not too much of a huge blow for the kind of retro computing community, I guess, and some of the kind of priceless one-offs and things that they have in their collection. If this was a targeted thing by someone in the community, obviously they kind of would have known the high-value items to have gone for. So I guess that's something in light of quite a sad bit of news. But yeah, just kind of tragic, really, to see this. I mean, they're a registered charity. They rely on donations. They rely on kind of the admission fees and things. And it is run by volunteers, and it's run by Andy, who's kind of a very passionate member of the community. So Yeah, a really awful thing to happen to such an institution. This story is over on the BBC News website. So, yeah, a museum is considering going cashless after a masked burglar broke in and stole a small amount of money from the till and collection buckets. The Retro Computer Museum in Troon Way, Thurmaston, Leicestershire, which allows visitors to try old computers and gaming consoles such as the Sinclair Spectrum and Commodore 64, was broken into on Friday, the 11th of April. The masked intruder broke into the till and stole cash and a few pounds from collection buckets. A museum spokesperson said they are now considering going cashless, as the break-in had a larger impact than just the money which was taken, as it was forced to partially close on Saturday due to the damage caused. And we can see pictures of some of the damage here. And the story basically just goes on to say that that they had to basically cordon a big section of the museum off while they waited for the police to conduct their investigations, and obviously dust for fingerprints and all the kind of stuff that they do when these situations occur. So, yeah, very low chance of the perpetrator getting caught, I guess, just being realistic. They are now talking about going cashless, so they aren't keeping any cash on site, which does seem like a wise move to me. Although, to be fair, if an opportunist is going to break in just to see what's worth stealing, I'm not sure that's going to deter them. But, yeah, just obviously they need to do what they can to try to prevent that, so I certainly don't blame them. But just a really awful thing to see, really, to quite an important part of the retro computing community in the UK. Like I say, really lovely bunch of people there, and they definitely didn't deserve yet another setback after the awful start that they had to this year. So, yeah, all the best to the guys at the Retro Computer Museum. What I will say is that if you are hoping to swing by Leicester at some point in the near future, or if indeed you are local to the area, the best thing you can do is to pop in and obviously check the place out, pay for your admission, and yeah, it's a thoroughly nice day out anyway, and you'll also be doing your bit to kind of get the museum back on its feet and put some money back in their coffers. So that is that, and I just wanted to kind of wish everyone there all the best, and I know you will power through this and get back up and running, because you're a very determined bunch of people, very hard-working bunch of people. And, yeah, that's that. So let's move on. And just before we dive into the next story, I just want to say a big thank you to PCBWay.com for sponsoring Reese Rambles. Of course, PCBWay are a very well-known and valued member of the retro computing community. They've been helping people out for over 10 years now with all of their PCB fabrication needs, as well as supporting lots of small creators such as myself. So they do PCB fabrication, and they also offer additional services such as CNC machining, 3D printing, and injection molding. So if any of those are of interest to you, or indeed a requirement for your next project, please do check out the link to PCBWay.com down in the description or in the show notes if you're listening on your podcast platform. And yeah, big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring Reese Rambles. The Nintendo Virtual Boy, a very interesting historic curiosity in the world of gaming, I think it's fair to say. It was, of course, a console that was released by Nintendo back in 1995 and was not a huge seller, didn't have a huge range of games available for it, and to be honest, has kind of outside of retro gaming circles, has kind of vanished into into obscurity a bit, which is a bit of a shame, because in true Nintendo fashion, it was a very adventurous thing. They were kind of pushing the boundaries of what was possible way back in 1995 with a 3D virtual reality console. I'm sure you're probably familiar with it if you are, deep in the weeds of the retro gaming community. But yeah, just to introduce it, we'll take a very quick look at the Wikipedia page here. So it's a 32-bit tabletop portable video game console developed and manufactured by Nintendo and released in 1995. Promoted as the first system capable of rendering stereoscopic 3D graphics, it featured a red monochrome display viewed through a binocular eyepiece, with games employing a parallax effect to simulate depth. The console struggled commercially, and its limited market performance led Nintendo to discontinue production and game development in 1996, following the release of only 22 titles. And what I will say is that if you ever get a chance to visit a computer museum or a gaming museum, just like the Retro Computing Museum that I was just talking about, and actually get hands-on with one of these things, I would highly, highly recommend it, because it is quite a unique experience. There's also one at I don't know if RCM actually have one on display that you can play with, but there is one at the Cave at the Retro Collective down in Gloucester, if you're planning on popping down there at any point. I know Neil has one, and yeah, I've played on his, and it's quite the thing. And because, of course, this thing is so heavy and so bulky, even though it is kind of designed as a headset, as an eyepiece thing, it does have a built-in stand, so you can stand it on the desk and basically lean up to it and put your face up to it and hold the controller and play the games that way. And part of the reason that this console failed was that it has a bit of a reputation for giving people horrific headaches. I like tension headaches because of kind of the position that you have to contort yourself into to actually see the screen properly. And of course, because of those screens being right in front of your eyes and eye strain and all the rest of it. Not a very kind of physically comfortable console to use. Anyway, why am I talking about the Nintendo Virtual Boy? Also, one other thing I should say, actually, I should give a shout out to one of my own videos here. Because I did do a second channel video here on the Reese channel, on the second channel, where these rambles go out every week. I did actually look at an emulator called Red Viper, which is a Virtual Boy emulator that runs on the Nintendo 3DS console. Of course, the 3DS has that 3D screen, which you don't need glasses for or anything else. It just kind of works. Thank you, YouTube. This is fantastic. Just trying to show off this video, and there we go. Yes. Wonderful. But yes, as you can see, I did a bit of a demo of this, just showing how the games work and stuff. So if you can't get your hands on the actual real physical console, but you want to see what the games were like, and you want to enjoy those in such a way as you don't ruin your physical health in the process, Red Viper on the Nintendo 3DS is a fantastic way to do it. It's all open source and free and all the rest of it. So I will link to that video down in the description so you can check that out and see how all of that works. Be interesting to start getting some views on that again. But yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? And the games, of course, they're Nintendo games. They're going to be great. They're fun, and they're based on my experience, like Wario Land in particular. I mean, Wario Land on the Game Boy, I think, is one of the best games on the Game Boy, one of my favourite games of all time, and I very much enjoyed the Virtual Boy version of that. Right. Now we can move on. So why am I talking about the Virtual Boy? Well, there has actually been some Virtual Boy news this week, as being reported here by TimeExtension.com. And the headline here is, online sleuths discover amazing screenshots of lost Mario Land Virtual Boy game. So this is VB Mario Land, and this was shown at the Winter CES 95 in January 1995. And the story here goes, a bunch of screenshots from a cancelled Virtual Boy Mario game have recently been discovered and shared online, giving us our best look at the game since it was first advertised back in the 90s at industry trade shows. Hat tip to Polygon. The screenshots were discovered by the Blue Sky user Rabid Rodent and were discovered in a bunch of AOL file directories accessible through the Internet Archive. The images in question seem to be promotional shots that were sent to the press at the time to report on the game and have previously surfaced in old magazines and online on lost media sites and wikis. However, to our knowledge, they have never been available in such high quality before, making this a particularly exciting discovery for those who have an interest in the history of the Virtual Boy or in cancelled games in general. And we'll take a look at the post in a moment and actually the bigger thread that it is kind of a part of, because it's very interesting to look at. Online, the game is often referred to as VB Mario Land despite never receiving an official name, and was a proposed title for the Virtual Boy headset that would have featured the classic Mario side-scrolling perspective, as well as overhead sections reminiscent of early Zelda titles. Yeah, we've got these overhead sections as well. That is quite interesting. I just lost where I am. It was shown at Winter CES in January 1995 and was teased in magazines over the next year, but was eventually cancelled, and with most speculating that the critical and commercial failure of the Virtual Boy was to blame. Originally released in 95 in Japan and North America, the Virtual Boy was rushed to market and ended up being critically panned at launch, with many users complaining about the high price, lack of software, and the general discomfort of wearing the stereoscopic 3D headset. And it just explains that it has gone on to be kind of a bit of a cult classic. So, we check out this thread over on Blue Sky, posted here by Rabid Rodent. And I must say, Rabid Rodent, try saying that quickly 3 times after a couple of beers, is a bit of a digital spelunker, I think it's fair to say. That's another thing you have to be careful about how you say it. A bit of an online digital detective. And this is part of a bigger thread of stuff that they've actually discovered on Diskmaster. So this is diskmaster.textfiles.com, which is, of course, tangentially related to the Internet Archive. Why am I So many big words this week. Anyway, so yeah, some really cool stuff to see here. We've got official Sonic the Hedgehog wallpapers for Windows 3.1 from 1993, if that's of interest to you. There's a load of other stuff like promotional material, lost promotional material, documentation, screenshots, stuff like that from all sorts of games and comics and things over the years. A really, really interesting thread to look at. But of course, the story here that we're interested in is this Virtual Boy Mario game and the fact that the original files, the original assets have been found, which of course is a big improvement on the magazine scans and things that have been doing the rounds in the community over the years. So yeah, if we just click on these and take a closer look at these, look at how big that is. That's what we like. So we've got, you know, your typical side-on Mario view. I think this is quite similar to Wario Land, of course, on the Virtual Boy, which I did previously play. And we've got this with this nice Torii Gate thing, this lovely kind of Japanese theme. And of course, you can see Mario here walking towards the screen. A lot of the games that I played obviously have kind of different depths. Of course, they use the 3D to its full advantage, and you can move back and forth between the different kind of play fields. As I kind of read a moment ago, like a parallax type effect with different levels kind of moving in front of each other, and you can actually move back and forwards between them in a lot of these games. Very, very cool. Very good use of the 3D. Not like your typical kind of first-person or third-person type thing that you might expect from your modern VR type stuff. Still very much 2D, but with layers. I guess that makes it 3D, doesn't it? But it's 2D with layers. You get me? Yeah. Anyway, the third screenshot is particularly interesting for a Mario game because we've got this kind of room here, and as kind of speculated on the Time Extension article, it's quite Zelda-like. You've got this top-down view, and you've got Mario coming in through this pipe, and yeah, we've got some boxes here on one side, which it looks like you might be able to break those. Some kind of table or altar type thing in the middle with candles on it, and then a door, which I guess is the exit. So this is maybe there were like secret rooms or something like that you could get into by traveling through certain pipes, and they move to this top-down view rather than kind of the underground thing that we're kind of used to from other Mario games. So I thought this was really interesting, and yeah, unfortunately, of course, being Nintendo, not a lot of historical stuff gets leaked or indeed released in any kind of official capacity, certainly not like cancelled games and stuff like this. So no idea how far ahead this was in development. The screenshots graphically certainly look quite finished and quite polished, although there is a distinct lack of enemies in any of these, I will say. So who knows, maybe this was... I mean, it looks too kind of, you know, too pixely and too kind of Virtual Boyish to be concept art. I think this is from some kind of working game. But yeah, I wouldn't hold out any hope on ever being able to play this. But hey, maybe some kind of fan remake or something like that. Now we have high-resolution versions of these original graphics. Could be on the cards, you never know, but still a very interesting thing and part of a very interesting thread as well of interesting historical things, which is, I think, is well worth going and checking out if you are a blue sky person, such as myself. Blue sky thinking, that's what we need more of. And if you're interested in seeing what the Virtual Boy looked like in action and you have access to a 3DS, or even if you don't have access to a 3DS, you can go and check out my video, Red Viper, a brand new Virtual Boy emulator for the Nintendo 3DS. Going to get the plug in there for my own videos as well. Good stuff. If you are familiar with the output of my YouTube channel, Control-Alt-Reese, and I think you might be if you're watching this or listening to this, or maybe not. Maybe you're just a rambler and you don't care about my other stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But if you are familiar with that and what I've been doing over there for the past few years, you will no doubt know that I am a big fan of upscalers, those wonderful little boxes that you can plug your old consoles and computers into, and they take the signal from that console and they process it in various ways depending upon the sophistication of the particular upscaler that you're using. And they output it generally over HDMI to a modern display, so you can play a nice, crispy and clean, low latency version of the output from your old console or computer on your modern display. Or in my case, I tend to use them for video capture quite a lot. So I just use a basic HDMI capture device plugged into my laptop, and I go via an upscaler. Depending on the hardware that I'm capturing from, I generally use, say, I'll tell you what, let's look at some of the popular options here. So we have the RetroTINK here. We've got the 5X, which is the slightly older model, which is the one that I use. There's the 4K nowadays as well, which is a very high-end, quite expensive option, but it does upscale to 4K and do a load of other fantastic stuff. And I've raved about that in previous rambles. We've got the OSSC, the open source scan converter, which of course is an open source option. They've been around for quite a while. That's something I have covered on my channel as well. And I've also been involved with the testing of the OSSC Pro as well. And the kind of the third popular option is the GBS control, which is a bit more a kind of a DIY solution and something that I really do need to investigate and kind of cover on my channel at some point. There are various other options out there as well, of course, and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, their own different inputs and things, their own processing options and everything else. It's a bit of a minefield. And if you're running a YouTube channel like me, or you're using them for streaming on Twitch or whatever, you're probably going to have to own various different options and pick the best one for whatever hardware it is that you're using. Always a bit of trial and error there. But anyway, I think the point that I'm getting to here is that these upscalers are kind of essential for the kind of retro gaming community these days with these modern displays and video capture requirements and stuff like that. Unless you're purely CRT, and if so, my hat is off to you for keeping it old school. But the news here is to do with the RetroTINK specifically, and this is a bit of political news, unfortunately. I try not to get too political on this podcast. I've made that mistake in the past, and people really don't like it. So all I will say is that this is a result of the guy that's currently running the US, who apparently half of you decided to vote for some reason, and his ongoing quest to make your country great by making it very expensive to buy anything. And this is an announcement by Mike Chi over on Blue Sky, to do with tariffs, and unfortunately the RetroTINK is going to be unavailable for a while in the US due to the fact that said glorious leader of said country hasn't really actually made any kind of announcement as to how this whole thing's going to work in reality. It's almost like he doesn't have any kind of coherent plan, but Mike Chi over on Blue Sky. Due to lack of guidance on how tariffs will be collected, starting May the 2nd, we've made the difficult decision to temporarily suspend US shipments. April the 23rd is the last day for non-expedited orders, and April the 28th is the last day for expedited orders. Without proper procedures in place, the risk of delays and lost packages is simply too high. As soon as we understand how to prepay tariffs on behalf of the customer, we will resume shipments. We apologise in advance for the inconvenience. Suffice to say, these issues apply only to US-bound shipments. As before, service to the rest of the world will continue without interruptions and policy-induced complications. Is this FOMO? Not necessarily. We have some reserve stock in the USA. We also expect that this will be resolved eventually, but it is impossible to say when or how. And some quite interesting replies and things on here, delving into the politics of this, which we won't go into. But yeah, if you have been looking to buy a RetroTINK upscaler and you are based in the US, it might be an idea to grab one now, because until all of this tariff stuff is sorted out and Mike actually knows how he's supposed to pay his bills, because, you know, Mike's a good guy, he's a good member of the community, and he wants to do stuff by the book, and, you know, he's running a legitimate business here, so I can't say I blame him. If you were looking to get your hands on one in the near future, I'd grab one sooner rather than later, because, of course, I guess this is to do with the fact that these are kind of made in China, and obviously you've got these ridiculous tariffs that are in place now as well. And not just due to availability of the stock and the actual practicalities of paying the tariffs, but the fact that once they come into effect, this thing's going to cost a hell of a lot more. So, that's the thing. These rambles really are getting quite long these days, aren't they? I mean, last week's was an hour long. Yeah, and people seem to enjoy that, actually. I got some good feedback on that, so thank you to everyone who enjoyed the hour-long ramble. I guess I got a bit carried away, and I also had a lot of submissions last week, which I didn't this week, to be fair. But there has been a lot of news, and I have been out and found some of it myself, as well as made some bookmarks and things of stuff that's popped up on my radar over the course of the week. And this next story is about a much-loved game publisher and game developer, Apogee, which is a name that I'm sure you're familiar with if you've been at all involved in PC gaming, particularly kind of your early 90s stuff. I probably know them best from, stuff like Wacky Wheels and Rise of the Triad, of course, Duke Nukem, stuff like that. And whether they were developer or publisher, they were a very, very important part of the scene back in the early 90s. And One of their games, one of their lesser known games, I must say, and one that I haven't played, which is always nice because I like it when these games that I didn't get to experience back in the day come up on my radar due to them being kind of revisited in modern times. One of their older games is being remastered, and that has been announced this week. So this is also over on timeextension.com, and the headline here is DOS Lovers Rejoice, the beloved Apogee game BioMenace is being remastered for Steam. I must say, Apogee is one of those names that... Let's go off on a bit of a tangent like we always do. So, yeah, when I was a kid, I always thought it was pronounced apogee. And don't know why, but you used to see it come up on screen. And I still actually read it as apogee in my head. Obviously, it's apogee. It's to do with the orbit and the physics and the all of the science stuff. But anyway, BioMenace, that's the story. BioMenace is being remastered and it will be released on Steam. And it was originally released back in 1993, as reported here by Jack Yarwood. So Apogee Software is a company that will probably be best known to most people for creating games like Duke Nukem and for publishing early id Software titles like Commander Keen and Wolfenstein 3D. But that isn't all it had to offer the world of gaming. Terminal Velocity as well, that was another one. Sorry. So easily distracted today. A fairly good example of this is 1993's BioMenace, a fun and colourful run-and-gun platformer that was built in Commander Keen's Keen Dreams engine for MS-DOS and focused on a CIA operative named Snake Logan, saving a city and its residents from an evil scientist named Dr. Mangle. Created by one of the future designers of Shadow Warrior, James Norwood, and featuring music from the legendary composer Bobby Prince of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom fame, and Commander Keen as well, in fact. The game... Bobby Prince. That's a very good reason to check this out. The game has largely been confined to history in the decades since its release, becoming a footnote in the careers of those who worked on it. But that hasn't stopped a small cult following from developing around the title, especially among those who continue to fly the flag for the MS-DOS era of gaming. This likely explains why it was recently announced that the game is getting a remaster for Steam later this year. So this was announced yesterday on social media by DOS Gamert. DOS Gamert, that's a channel I'm familiar with, but... and is being developed by Rigel Gameworks. It will reportedly launch in fall 2025 and will feature enhanced graphics and various other improvements, with the option also being included to switch between the original and remastered graphics for the purists among you, which is always nice to see in these remasters, I must say. So the features as listed on the Steam page. We've got enhanced graphics, including widescreen support, smooth scrolling and movement, 60 FPS or higher, and parallax scrolling backgrounds. Modernised HUD and UI, switch between the original remastered graphics, controller support, Steam Deck support, rebalanced difficulty, gameplay tweaks and new mechanics, weapon/grenade type switching and infinite lives, mid-level saves, quick saving, completion and stats tracking, Bobby Prince's original soundtrack from the DOS version, and Steam achievements. Okay, this is now a must-buy. I do love my Steam achievements. And I must say, I was familiar with the name BioMenace, but I hadn't really seen this game in action. I've never really played it. So there is a video here over on DOS Gamert's YouTube channel here. I'm not subscribed. There you go. Got a new subscriber there. Starts with this really nice opening shot of this old PC here. This old Packard Bell, I think it is. And we can see the game running. And yeah, I mean... it is what it is. It's as you can see, it's kind of very Duke Nukem-y, very kind of Commander Keen-y. And if you are into these early PC platform games, this is going to be right up your street, I think. So we can see the comparison of the graphics here on the left and the right. We've got the parallax backgrounds in action here. Look at this, looking very nice. But it's one of those things, and this is always a good thing. And this is always a good thing to see in a remaster. It kind of looks the way that you remember the game looking in your mind. And this is something that's come up again and again with some of these remasters, like Croc, I've been going on about for weeks and weeks. And, stuff like the Quake and Doom and stuff that Night Dive have done over the years. It's difficult to strike that balance, I think. And based on the limited look that we've had in this video and my limited knowledge of the original game, actually it looks like they've got it exactly right here. So, it's a little bit more crisp, a little bit cleaner and, kind of a slightly enhanced colour palette and stuff, but still very much in the spirit of the original game, which is always great to see. A game that I haven't played. So, this will be out later on this year. I don't think there is a specific release date other than fall. So it says wishlist now on Steam, so let's go and do that. There we go. Let's add it to my wishlist. There we go. Q4 2025. We've got a a Steam page here, which of course will be linked in the usual places, along with everything else that I talk about in this ramble. Sorry, I've been distracted by the Steam page now. But so go and check that out. BioMenace Remastered is coming out. Did you play BioMenace back in the day? Any BioMenace fans out there? Again, something I was familiar with, but a name I was familiar with, but not a game that I've actually played. So really interesting to check this one out later on this year. And that, my dear Rambler, brings us around to my regular video of the week feature, wherein I talk about a video that I've seen here on the old YouTubes that has inspired or entertained or enlightened or otherwise improved my life in some way. Quite often they're retro computing and retro technology related. Quite often they're not, but this week it is, so that's a bonus. And this is very much along the theme of another video that I featured quite recently. In fact, this one came up as a recommendation on my YouTube homepage. Wasn't familiar with the channel at all, but for some reason I felt compelled to click on it, and I'm glad I did. And I have since checked out some other videos from this channel and quite enjoyed them as well. So, as always, this will be linked in the usual places. But this video is called How We Came to Hate Technology, and it's by a channel called Chon, C-H-O-N. This guy who I was, like I say, not previously familiar with, but looking like a kind of early 90s Dave Grohl, which is always a good look. Not that I'm in a position to comment about anyone else's looks, but there you go. But yeah, so this is a rant. This is a good old-fashioned rant about modern technology and how rubbish it is compared to the technology of kind of the late 90s and early 2000s. How we used to have all these amazing devices, these music players and cameras and games consoles and stuff like that. I know games consoles are still a thing. You don't need to let me know down in the comments. But how that's all been replaced with these, streaming services, subscription-based services, endless DLC and rubbish like that. And just how much better we had it back in the olden days with our MP3 players and our mobile phones and, before everything became very corporate and cynical and just a way of endlessly extracting subscription money from people. So, I particularly like the way that this video was kind of put together, I guess. Evidently very well researched and scripted, very well edited. If you're watching this, you can probably see stuff flying around all over the screen, but I promise it makes sense within the context of the video and within the tone of the video. I think it is a very well-made video. And a good point as well that I think a lot of us will agree with, just about the technology that we grew up with and how things were better in the good old days. I mean, for goodness sake, I'm 41 years old. I'm allowed to rant about this stuff now. Get off my lawn and go and check out this video. Just over 15 minutes long on a channel called Chon, How We Came to Hate Technology. And I also enjoyed his other stuff as well. And as a bonus of this, and I guess the kind of the previous videos that I've watched along this subject, my YouTube recommendations are all about how terrible modern technology is now. And yeah, why not? Why not? I can't say I disagree. And that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. So thank you ever so much for joining me. Of course, next week's will be going out same time, same place, I guess, hopefully, if I get around to recording one. Obviously, I've got that long weekend away in London next weekend for the London Marathon. So at the very least, I might do a little bit of a video about that. I might record some bits and pieces as I go around and just kind of let you all know how we get on with that, because it's quite a big thing, quite a big deal for me, as you can probably guess. Also means that, of course, after next week, I'll stop banging on about it and I'll stop asking you to donate money. Yay! Oh, and if you do want to donate money, the link is down in the usual places. But yeah, so exciting stuff. No main channel release this week, but I have received a donation today from a long-term viewer and supporter of the channel. So thank you ever so much for that. If I do have time for this today, I will record an unboxing of that, and that will be going out on the second channel. So at least you'll have something to watch. But yeah, of course, it's the bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and nobody else is working today. So I'm here in my little office park, whatever you call it, little commercial park here that the studio is based in, and I'm the only person here, literally the only person here today. Even the landlord who lives on site seems to be away for the weekend. So yeah, hopefully I don't get robbed, but that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. See you next week. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Links to everything in the usual places. Go check them out. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much. Bye.